show you all the bills I drop. When I grab my pulse rocks, Wednesdays when the comics drop.
I'll take you to the comic shop, where variants are what I thought.
Hey guys, we are here today at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. And so we're here to take a little look at something different. We do a lot of Disney videos, a lot of convention videos, a lot of tips and things like that. But today we're going to take a little bit of a look behind the new things going on at Knott's Berry Farm. There's been a lot of changes in the last few years. Matt Weymouth, who is known from being the president of Disneyland Resorts, especially during their 50th anniversary, so he was in charge of all those big productions. He was the leader behind the Disneyland cruise coming into existence. So he's got a ton of history and a ton of experience in the resort and theme business. And now he is the head of Cedar Faire Entertainment, which is obviously a while back took over Knott's Berry Farm and many of the other parks around the country. So Knott's has been a focal point for them over the last few years, and the move to bring women in seems to be a big move to kind of Disneyfy things a little bit, if you will. And so one of the things that's really cool with the Knott's Berry Farm parks is that they really compete right now where they can. I mean, there's not going to be anything as we go and look at things today saying that it's Disneyland, because it's not Disneyland. If I say anything that leads to seem like we're comparing them, there really are apples and oranges. One is a destination resort, one is a regional park. That being said, there's many places where it competes with Disneyland and maybe even exceeds them. Some big things we'll look at today, we'll talk about pricing, which is obviously very different. I don't think that'll be a surprise to anybody, but some of the quality you get for that pricing might be. Food, they're right there as a contender to Disney and definitely surpass in many ways many parks, and you'll hear me make an argument that they're even better in food than Disney does. Thrill, they're obviously known for that, and that's an area they've been competing in forever. So you're not going to find these kinds of roller coasters or other places, but they're making even some moves in terms of adding a little theming into things like the log rides and so on. And then lastly, appearance. One of the big things and one of their goals has been in the last year, especially since Weymouth has taken over, is they feel that no other park in the nation can compete with them, or at least I should say surpasses them as it comes to the appearance of the parks in terms of cleanliness and the landscaping, agriculture, and all that. So you'll notice there's been a lot of planting of flowers all over the place. There's little accent pieces wherever you go in the park that really spice it up and add some really nice theming throughout the year. They've become a park that really acknowledges the various seasons, and so one of the neat things you get here is a seasonal park that actually adapts menu and adapts flowers and all those types of things to address what's going on. So a lot of neat little surprises. If you haven't been to Knott's for a while, hopefully I'll show you some things that'll make you mark it on your calendar to take a look here in the near future, because it's definitely become a spot that we like to stop at least once a month. So let's go on inside and take a look. Alright, we're here in front of Ghost Town Grill, and one of the things about Knott's that's changed if you have not been here in a while is the way they approach food, which is they have seasonal menus. They've got a number of restaurants, even the snack bars, they have, you know, themings to them, whether it's churros or the chip witches or things like that. Everything is very unique. None of it's just the canned. So ironically, or not maybe so ironically, they have a lot of canned rides that you can see at any little tiny off the side of the freeway amusement park. But in terms of their approach to food, the way they approach with the chefs and the menus is very different. In fact, when I look at the food options here, not to compare Disney and here, but I would definitely much prefer coming here for a dinner, a lunch, even a breakfast at Knott's than I would at Disneyland. They really don't even compete with the amount of options that they have here in terms of sitting down restaurants, full table service, thematic dining experiences, or just going by a quick cart on the way to the next ride. So definitely we'll take a look at some of the menu options and some of the various restaurants that inhabit this place. So a recent addition that's already opened up is the Haunt Museum. It's a small little part of the park, but one of the neat things is it's building some continuity between their Halloween haunt and the rest of the year. And so there's a bunch of different things in there related to the history of the park, history of the attraction, and some of the different performers they've had there. So again, they're building story where they can. They don't have the characters that something like Disney has, but they're starting to try and integrate those characters that they do have to build something there. Take a look. Alright, so here we are at the log ride, which is currently closed. It's undergoing refurbishment. It's supposed to open back up on May 30th. And this is one of the things that fits into kind of the redo of what's going on at Knott's and some of the changes that we're seeing here with Matt Ouimet in control of Cedar Rapids Entertainment, which is kind of putting that story first, which is obviously a Disney thing, but trying to integrate that in. He's talked a lot about not having the same intellectual properties that Disney obviously owns, but trying to tap into what they have and creating stories around things. So the log ride, they're redoing it, and what they're doing is adding in more animatronics or just some statues and things like that, but basically trying to give it a little bit more character to the story. So we'll be curious to see what it looks like when it opens May 30th. A lot of, you can check online, there's been a lot of artwork related to the concept drawings, but one of the things that's coming along is having that kind of character element to the ride and it not just being a thrill ride, as many of the rides at Knott's or Six Flags are. Alright, so in addition to the log ride, the big change that's coming up, opening up around that same time, May 28th, is the entire Boardwalk redo. And so in there, they're adding 3 new rides. It's a little bit similar to what they did with Cars Land at a much smaller scale, a much cheaper scale, but they're adding 1 big ride, similar to Radiator Springs. In this case, it's a big coaster. And then they're tying in 2 standard carnival rides, a scrambler and a glider. So the scrambler, anything you can see at the smallest amusement parks across America. The glider, not much different than that. And so you can see very small, tiny little rides there, but something to pull some people in, something different to go with the atmosphere, kind of a boardwalk situation. And then the big ride will be another coaster, which obviously Knott is known for their roller coasters, and so this will be adding to that tradition. One of the interesting things when you look at the concept art, there's a lot of little nods in there to kind of classic 50s type, 50s, 40s. There's the waitresses on roller skates. There's seemingly a James Dean, an actor dressed as James Dean, taking pictures with kids. Haven't heard anything about whether there's a plan to actually add those types of elements or if that's just something in concept art. If you follow amusement parks and ride development, you know that that's something that is often lost in translation from the initial drawings that get people excited to actual opening day. But I'm curious to see with what they do with this entire environment, if they try and really theme it up. Again, with the new guy in charge, he saw Disney Cruise Lines come in. He oversaw Disney's 50th anniversary, Disneyland Resort's 50th anniversary. So he knows a lot about that tradition of building in a story, and he knows a lot about the idea of creating kind of an atmosphere. And that's something that Knott has been accused of missing, that, you know, that a lot of parts of the park don't have that real story behind it or that kind of quality. So you can see a lot of changes in food over the last few years, a lot of improvements in terms of Halloween Haunt and how they do that, and then just overall architecture and landscaping. One of the claims they've made is that you won't find better food or beverage or better landscaping in any of the other parks. So these are small things, but obviously they're not quite at that level of being a destination park. They're more of a regional park, but it's definitely a goal, it seems to be, in the next 5 to 10 years that they're going to become one of those destination resorts and parks. So we'll see. We might be here at the beginning of something big. Alright, so that wraps up our time at Knott. Just wanted to give you kind of a quick look into some of the changes going on here. Obviously the rides and the re-theming a little bit in the boardwalk area is the biggest changes that we see. But in general, for the last year or so, since Amusement took over, there's been some major changes going on in relation to food, service, and just overall the look of the park and the appearances. It's definitely worth checking out. For us, we spend as much, actually I spend as much on 1 month of my Disney pass as an entire year just about at Knott. So it's definitely a good price to me. Ends up being about, I think it's like 69 bucks right now for a year Disney or a year Knott pass. So definitely worth checking out. Fun place to spend some time. And the major moves that it's kind of making, I think it's going to be something that we're going to see a lot of differences in the next 5-10 years in terms of it making that move from just a small regional park to a little bit more of a destination stop, and something that people are going to be flying across country to spend a couple days down here. So we'll see. Till next time, I'll see you in line somewhere.